level. The entity smiles and fulfills his wish, with a gigantic thunder lighting up the whole class. Heyo is still trying to figure out what is going on when he suddenly spots Nagi, who is pointing a sword at him. It seems that he has been summoned in the webtoon he dislikes. We see that while the fight between Dean and Nagi was concluding, a spectator notes that this was a predictable end. He wants a refund for such a lame ending. A girl next to him scoffs and explains to him that out of all the tournaments so far, this is the first time someone broke through Nagi's absolute domain, an invincible defense technique no one can conquer. Suddenly, a large thunder appears, causing the girl to drop her food. When she looks up, she sees that someone got past Nagi's absolute domain. Everyone is shocked at this turn of events, including Dean, who notes that this person broke through a technique that he, the second rank, barely got past in just a second. Heyo is left puzzled at all this. Where is this place? He suddenly spots Nagi and thinks that this is a dream, and he gets confident. He gets closer to her, and she demands he not come any closer. Nagi says that if he moves, she will have to cut him down. She summons her absolute domain, much to the surprise of everyone. Dean thinks that this guy got caught in it, and it's impossible to stand in front of such killing intent. But Heyo is fine, and wonders why it got so cold all of a sudden. She pulls out her sword, taking this as him accepting the fight. Heyo sees this and tries to apologize, but he thinks about the stuff that happened today. If he runs away even in his dreams, what kind of man would he be? He rushes her with a punch, thinking that she won't cut him down. This was just to scare him, right? But what Heyo didn't know is that the moment Nagi drew her blade, the fight was already determined. She cuts him into pieces and throws his body away. The commentator announces the results, and with Nagi having won the tournament, the story is to be continued. But the entity doesn't like this story one bit, saying that Heyo promised something entirely different. So it can't end like this. He taps his phone. Heyo floats in a seemingly infinite space, wondering if this is the end. Suddenly, he gets transported elsewhere, where a girl is looking at him. Heyo asks where he is, causing her to pick him up with some type of flame magic. She says that she didn't give him permission to even look at him, so how dare he ask a question? Does he want to fight? She grips him tighter, demanding that he disappear. Suddenly, someone tells her to stop, and she gets dragged away in a blade, saving Heyo's life. The person apologizes for her attitude, saying it hasn't been long since she was born. He tries to introduce himself, but the name doesn't go through. Instead, he calls himself Arthur, the god of this world. The girl asks to be let go, as Heyo was the one who started it. Arthur calms her down, saying that she is ruining the vibe. He crouches down to Heyo's level, who immediately flinches and begs for forgiveness. Arthur notes that he doesn't understand the situation, so he will explain instead. He has decided to select Heyo specifically, to become a player. Heyo notes that that's just the title of the webtoon he was reading. Arthur notes that he didn't read it correctly, so he will have to show him. Heavenly Arena Terrarium, filled with gold and treasure beyond your wildest dreams. And those who climb this tower are called players. A while later, Arthur orders Excalibur, the girl, and Heyo to go down to the human world together. They both object, but Arthur notes that it has already been decided. He pushes them inside of a circle and wishes them a nice trip. He says to Heyo that Excalibur is a legendary sword, despite her appearance, so she will be of great help. He also demands that she come back with ice cream from the human world, and with that, they get zapped away. The debris from the thunder clears up, and Heyo sees Excalibur, who now has the appearance of a kid. He asks why this happened, and she says that it's because of him. Arthur watches them, thinking that he forgot to tell them something. It's not fun if he were to spawn them in a random place, right? So he prepared a tutorial quest for them. A giant man towers over Excalibur, who is too busy with Heyo to spot him. He warns her about the incoming attack, and she barely gets out of the way. But the attacker doesn't let up, and continues to try and dispatch Excalibur. She backs away to Heyo's location, who asks for the attacker's identity, also wondering why he is doing this. The attacker says that they could ask the same question, and a swarm of other people come out of hiding. It seems that this place is the home base of the Red Hood, a thief guild. The attacker, who goes by Red Wolf, says that the price for attacking this place is heavy, so he hopes they steeled themselves. He orders his men to capture Excalibur, who reaches her hand out to Heyo, saying that he should hold her tightly. She begins transforming into a sword, much to the surprise of the Red Wolf, who says that she is an ego weapon. The transformation finishes, and Arthur bursts out in laughter. As Excalibur has transformed into a shabby, half-broken sword, we see that Excalibur is what is called an ego sword, a legendary entity that grows with her master and has endless possibilities. But since she is being wielded by Hio right now, she is utterly powerless. She turns back into a human, traumatized at what she had to go through. Red Wolf says that he had higher expectations for them, since they destroyed the Red Hood hideout, but it seems like they are just weaklings. He adds that the price will be heavy. Hio thinks that if this continues, he will die again, so if it's like this, he has to run away, no matter what. Excalibur gets in front of him, saying that they shouldn't lump her in with him. Are they crazy? The attackers note her considerable power, and Arthur notices that she kept some of it secret. She creates a large hole in the ground and charges in, preparing to destroy them. But Arthur has other plans, and he strips her of her powers. She tries to apologize, but Red Wolf orders his men to eliminate both of them. Heo turns his back to them, thinking that he was planning to use the commotion to run. But he can't. He needs to help her. Suddenly he spots Red Wolf, who is looking at him with murderous eyes. Excalibur turns her back to the attackers, saying to Hio that they need to try nonetheless, as there's no other choice. But he is nowhere to be found. Instead, he is running with all his might. He thinks about this situation. He is just a teenager. There's no chance he can win against something like that. He tries to make excuses in his head. Excalibur is strong enough. He would just be a nuisance anyway. He trips on a rock and falls, thinking that he wanted to become a hero. But in the end, he is the same. The same person who runs away from reality. He continues to justify his cowardly attitude until he gets called out as a coward by someone. A pathetic coward. Excalibur tries to fight, but with her abilities gone, she holds no candle to her enemy now. Red Wolf tries to finish her with a punch, but when all hope is lost, Hio gets in front, tanking the punch. She demands to know why he didn't just run away. Hio begins crying and asks if a coward like him can't do something like this. Excalibur looks at him for a second and smirks. She gets up, saying that they should at least give it a try, right? Hio smiles, and they shake hands. Arthur likes this development and gives Excalibur her power. Red Wolf notes that this power might be stronger than Nagi, or even past that. Heo stands with sword in hand, thinking that the real opponent here that he needs to beat is his weak self. Excalibur notes that he is using her full strength. Most of the attackers retreat at this spectacle, but Red Wolf stands unwavering, saying that he hates people who rely on their equipment the most. This is also the reason he founded the Thieves Guild. He puts his hand in the ground and takes out a whole chunk of it, saying that even though he has a good sword, it's just that, a sword, so he can't do anything with it if he isn't close. While the boulder is being thrown at him, Hio's eyes turn cold, and in an instant, he wipes out everyone. With that, he falls down too, probably from overexertion. Arthur, who is watching all of this, is extremely happy with the results. He looks at a chess table and says that with this set, all the candidates have gathered. It's finally starting to flow in the world that he created. Somewhere else, Duke, an 86-year-old man with the occupation of a coachman of a Mokiko wagon, is having his peaceful life disturbed after a long time. The reason being that 30 minutes earlier, he spotted Excalibur dragging away what he presumed to be a corpse. He invites them on the wagon, out of fear for his life. Excalibur demands he focus on the road, as the wagon is having turbulence. He thinks that if he were 50 years younger, he wouldn't have to take this disrespect, but sees how brutally she tries to wake Hio and calms down. Excalibur wonders why he isn't waking up after such a long time, and wonders if he really died. He suddenly wakes up, spouting some nonsense about some food, causing Excalibur to punch him in the face. After a while, Hio says that he doesn't remember anything past grabbing her hand, but he remembers how much power she gave off. Excalibur wonders if he was just lucky, but that can't be the case, as even though he is pretty dumb, he used Arthur's power perfectly and didn't kill a single person. Heo also thanks her for trusting him and tries to say her name, but notes that it's too cringy, causing her to throw some punches at him. Heo takes her attention away, as they have finally arrived at the village of entry. While at the entrance, Heo wonders what to do about money, as he doesn't have a lick of it. But Excalibur calms him down, saying that she stole all of the money from the thieves. He praises her for this, but their happiness gets cut short as the old man reports them to the police, saying that they threatened him. Hio tries to get out of the situation by saying that he was threatened too, and Excalibur socks him a good one. The old man notes that she is wearing the same attire as a wanted criminal, Red Wolf, so they can't feign ignorance on this. The guards surround him, and one stands above, staring at them with malicious intent. Near them, people who want to go inside the city are waiting in line because of the commotion, asking the presumed criminals to just surrender themselves. Excalibur notes that they don't know a thing, and turns her attention over to Hio, thinking that he must be breaking down mentally, and will probably run away again. But suddenly he slaps himself, and thinks that he does want to run away, but he has to suppress this desire. And since they are surrounded because of a mistake, they should be able to solve it peacefully, right? One of the guards orders him to put his hand up, and he obliges, telling Excalibur that he has a plan. Suddenly, she jumps out of the wagon, ready to inflict her own kind of justice on the guards. Hio notes that it's futile to negotiate now. Excalibur lands on one of them, thinking that even if Hio just absorbed all the power Arthur gave her, she still has physical strength, so these guys shouldn't be a problem. The commander orders all of them to attack, saying that they both are not on the player registry, so they shouldn't go with fear. They do so, but Excalibur dispatches the first by throwing the cloak at his face and kicking him. She grabs the spear and hurls it at another, making her think that they are much weaker than she presumed. So if things continue like this, first rank is easier to get than she thought. The commander orders one of his men to bring Sir Ron here. Excalibur hears this and dashes straight to him, saying that they should try and bring that person here, if he can move after this attack. Suddenly, a man pops up behind her, with an attack that she can't dodge. Hio Barley manages to save Excalibur by summoning her as a sword. She is furious, wondering why he even saved her. He could have handled that guy. Hio notes that she couldn't. He knows because he has the ability of a loser. Awareness. Just like prey avoids their predators. So did he watch out for the most dangerous guy in his classroom, and his loser senses were tingling when he saw that guy. He is definitely extremely dangerous. While pitying him for what he just said, Excalibur notices the gigantic line ran left with his attack, who notes that he won't miss again. Hio is a little hesitant to fight him now, but she pushes him, saying that he should watch out for the cloth Ron is using as a weapon, as if he gets hit, it's over. Hio's hands shake, and he wonders how he can manage to beat such a person. Excalibur notes that with his level, he can use her for a maximum of 2 minutes, so they must get to it. Hio asks if they have to fight. She gets mad, asking if he is still scared after all of this. He says that he indeed is, but that's not the point. Their priority is to climb up the tower and reach Nagi, but if they fight, it will be even harder to reach the tower. And also, if they even somehow manage to defeat Ron, if he loses consciousness again like last time, it's over. Suddenly, Ron makes a move and summons a gigantic hand. He names all of Hio's charges, attacking the gates, interfering with the law, and attempted homicide. The hand suddenly breaks apart and snares Hio. Ran adds that given that they are resisting, the death penalty will be issued and executed. Hio notes Ran's extremely strong presence, the presence of another player. Hio charges the blade and gets out of the restraints, causing Ran to transform his cloth into a spear, saying that he shouldn't have resisted. Excalibur screams for Hio, and he knows that there's no time to worry. There's no choice but to retaliate. Hio begins charging the sword, much to Ran's surprise. Hio gets in position to strike, and just as he's about to do it, he spots that people are still on the battlefield. Excalibur notices his hesitation, and asks if he wants to get killed by Ran, because that's what's going to happen if he stops. Hio tries to explain, and that's when Ran charges them from below, saying that they lost their chance at victory. He punches Hio, throwing him to the ground. Ran notes that they are truly dangerous, if they survive to fall like that. He enlarges his weapon and throws it at them. Excalibur prepares for the worst, and that's when the Makamo jumps in front of them. Ran is taken aback by this. Why would an intelligent beast such as this protect them? The passers-by notice this as well, and are amazed. Ran looks at them and drops down. He looks at Excalibur one more time, and knocks her out with his weapon. He tells the guards to lock them up, as they will punish them according to regulations. They lock them up. And somewhere else, Ran tells someone what happened. The person wonders if he mistook innocent people for criminals again, as a Mokimo wouldn't protect evil people. Ran says that they still attacked the gates, and also shows him the necktie Heo was wearing. He notes that it is very well made, and he has never seen such material before. The person laughs, saying that he's seen that necktie before. It's from the person who got through Nagi's absolute domain. We see that the person Ran was talking to was none other than Dean, who wants to speak with Heo in person now. While locked up, Heo tries to make conversation about different things, but Excalibur just sighs, making him think that she is really mad. And rightly so, as if he hadn't hesitated then, they would have won. While bashing his head in a wall, Excalibur apologizes, taking him by surprise. She says that what she did was wrong. If she hadn't begun fighting then, none of this would have happened. And to show that she is properly taking responsibility, she wants him to punch her. Heo starts wondering if her head is filled with only violence and muscles. But that's when he thinks about a nickname for her. Liber. He notes that Excalibur is too long and tedious to say, so he will call her Liber from now on. She looks at him and then scoffs, saying that he can call her whatever she wants. More importantly, this wall is pretty thin, so it's about time they escaped. Outside the prison, 2 guards are dozing off on the job. Someone suddenly wakes them up by saying that this job must be tiresome. That person is none other than Dean, whom they call Sir Dean. They apologize for sleeping, and Dean says that it's fine, since this place is peaceful after all. Ran has other thoughts, however, as he would very much like to give them some punishment. Dean asks where they are keeping Heo, and the guard tries to tell him, but that's when a gigantic explosion occurs on the side of the prison. They go inside and see the hole left behind by Heo and Liber. The guards demand punishment, but Dean is just surprised at the size of the hole, while Ran is fuming with rage. They spot Liber carrying Heo, and that's when Ran drags his fingers in the air, and they both fall down due to a mysterious pressure. Heo notices that their clothes are heavy. Ran comes up to them and says that he already marked their clothes, so they are under his control for at least half a day. Heo tells him that they aren't bandits, and are just trying to climb the tower. Ran notes that a lot of people come here to climb the tower, drawn in by the riches promised by it. But if that's the reason they are here, there's more reason to give up. There are powerful players in there, like himself, and they can't even do anything to him. So they should give up. Dean stops his ramblings and crouches down to Heo's level, who notices that this is the same person from back then. He introduces himself to Heo. He is Dean, the king of the village of Entry. Heo is getting dizzy just thinking about this, and asks what they're going to do to him and Liber. But Dean doesn't get to answer, as Heo passes out. When he wakes up, he is being groomed and fed, surprising him instantly. Some kids call his clothes dumb, and that's when Liber says he should eat, as the food is pretty good. He asks her what all of this is about, but she doesn't know either. Heo notes that they should get out as quickly as possible, as they need to escape from those monster-like players. Unfortunately, Ran was right next to him. He demands Heo follow him, as Dean is waiting for him. They walk to Dean's room, and Heo wonders why Liber didn't come with him, as he is just a normal high schooler without her. They arrive, and Ran opens the door. Dean welcomes him in, saying that he was surprised when he broke through the wall and fainted right when he got caught. He notes that it wasn't an easy wall to break. Perhaps he used the same skill to break through Nagi's absolute domain. He puts his hand on Heo's shoulder and asks him what kind of skill he is using. Heo is left puzzled. What can he say? If he's evasive, things might take a turn for the worse. Is the only option to tell him the truth? But who would believe that he got his powers from a god? Dean pats him on the shoulder and says that he shouldn't tense up so much, as if he doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. He notes that most players hide their skills. Heo wonders why he asked him then, and Dean says that he was just curious. Heo asks why he wanted to see him, and Dean hands him his belongings, noting that they were proven innocent. He says that the Mokimo coachman came to them and confirmed they weren't part of the Red Hood. He also said that his companions were safe because of them, so he did this as a thank you. Heo begins laughing, thinking that his hesitation saved everyone. Dean looks at him and smirks, thinking that if it's him, then maybe it's possible. Dean asks if they came here to climb the tower, and Heo confirms this. He then asks why he wants to go up the tower. Hio feels something inside guiding him, and he says that his goal is defeating Nagi, the first ranker. Ron also hears this, and he ponders in silence. Dean asks Hio to look out the window with him. He sees the gigantic building in front of him, and Dean says that most of the buildings inside that circle are Guild Avalon's property, the guild that Nagi directly commands. Hio suddenly realizes the meaning behind his words. If his goal is to defeat her, then he must do the same to everything that surrounds her. This is a declaration of war. Will he be able to do it? A small fry like him, who couldn't do anything, even in school. Dean suddenly grabs him and says that he decided to help him climb the tower. He's taken a liking to Hio, and their goals align, so it's a no-brainer. He wonders where to start, but suddenly remembers something, and asks Hio if he's signed up for the player candidate registration. After some time, Hio leaves the room, exhausted at the discussion he had. Ran, who was sitting right next to the door, says that he warned him already. He doesn't possess the power to climb the tower. But instead of heeding the warning, he is instead blabbering about nonsense about defeating Nagi. Ron gets furious and calls Hio trash. Trash who crossed the line. He gets ready to use his powers again, but that's when Lieber sweeps in, saying that he can't order them around. Who does he think he is? And soon, they will make him regret those words, as they will become extremely powerful. Hio says the same. They will climb the tower and definitely defeat Nagi. Ron starts walking away, but not without saying that he will be sure to watch how long this confidence will last. With that, he leaves, and Hio immediately falls down. But Lieber is fired up, and says that they need to get stronger, so they can take that guy down from his pedestal. Later, they arrive at the place Dean talked about, the first gateway. A woman stands above all the candidates and says it's about time to start the player selection. A while before this, Hio and Lieber tried to find the testing site, but got lost, because all Dean said was that they would recognize the people who would take the test, and they should follow them. Hio now realizes that this is too little information. Is this perhaps part of the test as well? Suddenly, a guy walks past them, who stands out, as he is seemingly speaking to himself about murder. Lieber looks in the direction he's going, and sees a myriad of interesting characters. This sight causes her to want to go back home, as she wouldn't follow such people ever. Suddenly, a towering man wearing a plague doctor mask puts his hand on Hio's shoulder and asks him to move out of the way. He does so, and Lieber asks if they should take them out, much to Hio's annoyance. And that's how they made it to the testing site, by following the other candidates. They both think that the people here look normal at least. Hio notes other people, and how much they differ. Lieber spots the woman standing on the podium, and Hio thinks she is probably going to give them instructions. The instructor, Momo, begins the selection of the player candidates. We see that Dean said that there isn't really a criteria you need to pass the test. You just need to show that you are special, so it shouldn't be hard for Hio. He shouldn't worry and go have fun. Back to the present, Momo is failing people left and right. Lieber says that she is doing whatever she wants. Hio says that she is still a player. So there must be some type of thing they need to do, and they need to find out exactly what. She makes her way to a giant person and bashes him for not lowering his gaze to her level. He tries to apologize, but she is having none of it and fails everyone behind the big guy. Some of them get furious and demand to know by what criteria she is failing them. Momo raises her foot in the air and hits the ground as hard as she can, making Dean, who is in the distance, choke on his food. He notes that it's not going to go smoothly this time. Momo has summoned a giant earth golem and announced the criteria on which she is basing her decisions on. The criteria fall under the judgment of the player, which is her. So she is basically doing anything she wants. The examinees note that it's unfair, and she says that if that's what they think, they should come fight her. If they understand what position they find themselves in, the ones she failed should leave, and the rest should form single-line files. Momo sighs, and that's when Lieber screams at her. She says that even though she's a player, she is only blabbering about nonsense, and what's with that criteria? Does she think they are dumb? Hio tries to calm Lieber down, but she is having none of it, and she says that they are here to climb the tower. But if they become someone like Momo, then she doesn't want it. Doesn't he feel the same? Momo says that the examinees are a bit slow this time, as they already saw the difference in their abilities. She teleports to Lieber instantly, asking if she needs a magnifying glass to finally know her place. If she is this confident, then they should fight. She promises that if they're able to touch a single hair of hers, she will pass them. Lieber smiles, and they both look at each other with deadly glares. Suddenly, the guy who is talking to himself about murder attacks them, causing Momo to think that these people are all too busy thinking about themselves. Suddenly, Heo rushes in front and asks Lieber to give him a hand, as other people will be hurt if they don't do something. She tries to come up to him, but that's when a guy says that he had his fun, and they should share the spotlight. Heo tries to stop him, but he doesn't understand one thing. The difference between here and what happened at the gate is that these people do not need any sort of protection. The guy, Pastis, destroys the attacker's weapon in a second. Another examinee comes up behind him, Kina, who says that he should stop messing around and leave. The attacker doesn't want her orders, but she says that it's more of a warning. He doesn't possess any skills now, so how does he plan to fight the other contestants who are enraged at his actions? He gets dragged away by the guard, and he swears revenge while they do so. Suddenly, the guy with the mask raises his arm as he has a question. Are they going to be doing the same thing with the single file lines and receiving judgment randomly from Momo again? This makes the other contestants talk about this, and Heo notices that this is a hostile atmosphere. What will the instructor do in this situation? Momo says that they have a lot of complaints about the test, and rightly so, as she is doing whatever she wants. Silence falls, and it seems like they are all ready to strike. But that's when Momo says they shouldn't get so fired up, as everyone here passes. She adds that the condition was to resist. No matter what situation, not becoming restrained is a quality players need. If they just blindly follow rules, then they shouldn't become players. The examinees are fine with this, but Kina notes that there are too many to pass all at once. Momo says that this is correct. The number of examinees are far higher than she anticipated. And it's because of the representative of this resistance, Heo. So with this in mind, she will add one other condition. She asks the names of the representatives, Heo and Libur, and says this. If they show a skill that surprises her, she promises to pass everyone here. Heo confidently asks Lieber if she's ready, and she appears to be so. A giant flash of lightning suddenly appears from behind them, surprising everyone there. Kina notes that this is no ordinary weapon. It is an ego weapon. But Lieber transforms in her shabby version of herself, and Kina does not know how to react. Momo says they have 5 seconds left, and Lieber asks Heo what he is doing, as he is the one who has Arthur's powers. She urges him to do something, a special talent if he has one. Heo thinks long and hard, wondering what he can do in this situation. Momo continues to count down, and in the last second, Heo pulls out his smartphone. Momo asks if this is his specialty, and he confirms it valiantly. Everyone stares, and Lieber's patience has broken. Heo tries to explain what this is, but she doesn't give him the chance, instead choosing to grab him by the shirt, and says that if she knew he would show a piece of junk, she would have tried to throw a punch or something. Who would pass an examinee after what he did? But Momo passes them, much to Lieber's surprise. Heo asks Momo if she doesn't want an explanation as to what the phone is, but she says that she already knows that it's a smartphone. Heo asks how she knows what a smartphone is, but she ignores him completely and says that, due to her promise, every single one of the examinees has passed. They celebrate and congratulate Heo, who still demands to know what a smartphone is. Momo says that he needs to find that out for himself, as he is a player candidate now. With that, she leaves, telling him that they will meet at the final examination. Heo goes back to Dean and asks if he knows what a smartphone is, but he doesn't, as he was in the battle competition, so he generally doesn't know what's going on in the world now. He asks Heo if he wants to research this, but he says it's fine, and excuses himself. While walking away, Heo thinks that it would be too needy for him to ask Dean to help him with this. But if someone here knows about the existence of smartphones, he isn't the only one from Earth. His hands tremble, and he notes how pathetic he feels, as when reality comes back into the picture, he is trembling with fear. He decided to change, and that's what he needs to do. A rogue who has been tailing him until now leaps out of a window and runs away. Dean notices this and says that something is about to start. He also orders Rand to find out what a smartphone is. The rogue tells the people with masks about the smartphone, also congratulating himself for a job well done. The leader of these people says that if he successfully retrieves the phone, he will get half the price to him. He promises this. The rogue turns his back away and says that he will trust him for now, and will also keep all of this a secret. The leader suddenly strikes him, creating a giant hole in his chest. The rogue dies instantly, and the leader orders his people that the location of the phone has been confirmed, so they should retrieve it. And if anyone dares to interfere, they should kill them. Later, his people investigate the area and say that Dean is nowhere to be seen. The leader says that it's time, so they should proceed with the plan, while transforming his hand into a ghoulish appearance. Before this, Dean gives Heo a bill. He has to pay a large sum of money, and Dean says it's for his medical expenses, repairs, and so on. Heo asks about the jewels they had with them before, but Dean says that he returned all of those as they were stolen property, and it was the right thing to do. He notes that if he works hard daily, in about 2 to 3 months, he should be able to pay everything. Heo sweats profusely, thinking about all the things he has to do. He can't just sit idly for even a month. Dean says there's another way, and he can pay his debt in a week if he does it. Heo's eyes light up and says that he will do anything. The thing he wanted them to do is follow Ran around on his patrol, with Heo noting that this is kind of awkward. Lieber is impatient and makes a fuss, but Heo says that most of the medical bill is on her, as it's for the guards she beat up. They continue talking, and Ran turns to them and says that he demanded that they follow quietly. Heo covers his mouth and Lieber's, and agrees. Ran thinks about what Dean is thinking, as he orders him to go on patrol with them. He wanted to personally look after them, but he needs to leave the village for a while, as his left arm is ready, so he needs to go to the 15th floor to get it. Ron tries to understand Dean, but can't. Why does he care for these two idiots? He suddenly bumps into a kid who was holding a hot dog, and the sauce stains his clothes. Heo thinks that Ran will blow up because of this, but he just walks away, much to his surprise. He goes to ask the kid if he's okay, and Lieber says that he won't die because he just tripped. The other kids go and bash him for bumping into Ran. Heo is surprised and asks if she shouldn't have asked if her friend was okay first. The girl says that he won't die because he tripped. Heo depressingly retreats to a nearby wall, and Lieber wonders why these kids care for Ran that much. They get into an argument, and Lieber asks her why they like Ran. The girl says that he always protects them, so it's a no-brainer. They continue following Ran, and Heo tells him that he's popular with children. He takes this as sarcasm at first, but also says that, in terms of popularity, he is quite popular himself. Heo is swarmed by a pack of Mokimos, and Lieber just laughs at him. Ran says that he should be proud of this, as Mokimos are spiritual beings of Heavenly Tower Terrarium. And normally, even touching them is difficult. He tries to touch one, but it dodges. He notes that the Mokimo that protected Heo wasn't a coincidence. Heo asks him if the reason he became a player was to protect this village. Ran thinks and says that without his powers, he is just a normal human. All he is doing is following the wishes of those who acknowledged his worth. So in a way, he is doing this for them. In order to defeat evil in the weak's stead, he became a player. Heo notes that he doesn't understand him at all. Ran scoffs and says that he never wished to be understood anyway. Lieber says that it's not like him to make a remark about someone's beliefs. Heo thinks, the weak's stead? But that's not what people really want. Suddenly, an explosion occurs in the market. The masked people are now ready to attack, and the leader orders his people to leave Heo to him. People run away from the explosion, and Heo stops one of them to ask what happened. The person says that some crazy person is going around setting everything ablaze. Heo is surprised. Who would attack the village that Dean, rank number 2, protects? He asks Ran where Dean is, and he says that he is away on some business now. Ran notes that they must have attacked knowing that he is away. He orders Heo to alert the other guards and bring them here. He asks what he's going to do, and Ran says that's obvious. He jumps in the air, much to Heo's surprise. He thinks for a second and says that they should hurry and get the guards. Ran makes his way to the explosion, bashing himself for neglecting the city. He already knew that there was going to be trouble, so he should have taken care of it properly. Suddenly, an explosion occurs right in his face, and out of the smoke, one of the attackers appears, saying that he's late. He orders other attackers to charge Ran, but in the second they approach, they all get swept away by his cloth. The attacker notes the cloth's sturdiness and attack potency, and says that he lives up to the name of Guardian. Ran transforms his cloth into a spear, exclaiming that he will execute him. He charges in, but the attacker blocks the attack. They both retreat, and when Ran goes in for a kick that the attacker barely dodges, they exchange blows, seeming evenly matched. Ran gets the upper hand and pushes him into a wall. With that, he notes that it's over. But instead of feeling defeat, the attacker's smile grows wide, and 3 people appear behind Ran. The clothes rip, and he manages to incapacitate them all, in exchange for his clothes. The attacker says that he didn't think he would have control over clothes as well. Ran looks at him and demands to know why they are doing this, and if he doesn't answer, he will take his life. The attacker smiles, saying that even if he does, he won't let him live. He also notes that the battle is already lost, as their purpose has already been fulfilled. The leader stops Hyo and exchanges greetings. Hyo notes that this is the guy from the testing site, and Lieber says that they are surrounded. Hyo says that they have to go, as they received a request to bring the guards over. The leader says that wouldn't be wise, as he was the one who started the fires. Hyo asks why he would do such a thing, and he explains that he doesn't want anyone to interrupt their conversation. And now, even Dean might not be able to. Hyo asks what he wants. The leader says that he only wants the smartphone. If he gives it to him, he will let them live. On the 15th floor of the tower, Mary Xenos is noting that it shouldn't be as painful as he expected. Dean notes that it's not, but they should finish this quickly. Mary notes that she's going as fast as she can, and also wonders how his village is doing. Dean says that it's not like her to worry about things going on outside. Mary notes that she doesn't care, but she asked because it seemed like he was about to faint again. Dean thanks her for the worry, and asks if she knows what a smartphone is. She notes that she heard a lot of stuff recently about it, as it has amassed quite a bit of popularity. Mary tells him that from what she heard, it's able to evoke a special power from within, or something along those lines. More importantly though, he shouldn't get involved with such an item. Back to Hyo, he thinks that if the phone leaves his hands, this guy will kill him. But for now, nothing comes to mind, so he will play along. Hyo says that he must have left it in his pocket somewhere, but the leader is having none of it, however, as he smacks the snot out of him. He says that he should stop trying to be funny, and the next time he will kill him. Lieber gets furious, but Hyo urges her to stop and do as he says. She is hesitant at first, but he asks for her trust. Lieber reluctantly concedes. Hyo thinks that if they were to fight, his life would be on the line, so he has to avoid it at all costs. Hyo tries to hand him the phone, but that's when the girl from before appears next to the leader. She says that they should get out of here, as there's a fire going on. The leader asks how she got here, and she says that she just walked in. The leader sighs, thinking that his people couldn't even defend a single street, those fools. She asks him if he isn't hot with all this smoke, as his mask looks stuffy. In that second, he puts his hand on her head, ready to crush her. Hyo summons all his might to grab her out of the way, and he succeeds. The leader says that the negotiations are over. He will just get the phone from his corpse. Hyo throws the phone over to Lieber, and she tries to run away with it. She mocks the leader, saying that she's way faster than him. Suddenly, a group of attackers lunge at her, incapacitating her. The leader commands them to break her wrists, so that she will be unable to use the smartphone if she tries. They do so, and the leader takes no time in calling Hyo a coward. Is his plan just to run away and leave this girl here? Hyo confirms this, and that's when he summons Lieber to his side. Ran notices this power, and wonders if it's his. The leader thinks that it's the power of the phone at first, but Hyo's nowhere near it. But he also wonders why a child has the light of the chosen. Hyo stands valiantly, saying that he only needs one attack to finish this. He tells the little girl to stand back, as he will finish this quickly. The leader asks where he got this power from, but Hyo says that it's none of his concern, and strikes, filling the entire alley with light. From above, Kina watches them. Hyo and his one-hit kill attack will end up greatly impacting the future of the village. Somewhere else, Avalon's scouts order Ran to step aside. As this situation has fallen under their jurisdiction, Ran is furious. They have done nothing but sit idly while the situation escalated. What gives them the right now? They note that they haven't been standing by. They just trusted his abilities as the defender of the village. One says that the fire has reached the area outside the walls as well, so this is no longer the village's problem. This is why they have been sent. Another adds that right now, he is the only one who is being obstinate. Starting from this moment, Avalon will be regulating the situation. This is not a suggestion, it's an order. After the slash, The leader stands there, presumably defeated. Hio stands there, almost passed out from fatigue. He sits down and he asks Liber if she's okay, but there's no response. The girl asks Hio if he's okay, and he confirms this. He starts to worry about Liber. Is she perhaps not responding due to the injury inflicted earlier? He notes that up until now, Liber has defended him whenever he fainted, so it's his turn to do the same. He grabs the girl's shoulder and says they should go, but in that moment the leader rises, and Hio barely manages to dodge this unexpected attack. The leader's mask begins to fall off. Hio is thanking his lucky stars that he managed to deflect it in time, and he was too careless. But regardless of the situation, he must hold out. The leader continues to bash Hio with attacks, and the little girl, probably extremely scared by this point, attempts to run away. That's when the leader notices and jumps above Hio, intending to strike her. But Hio notices and slices him clean in half. He attacks once more, leaving him to the brink of fainting. The leader just stands there, however, seeming like nothing ever happened. He demands the phone, as he has a debt he needs to pay. Hio is surprised at his endurance, but doesn't have enough time to worry, as the dizziness overwhelms him and he falls to his knees. He ended up like this again, even though he tried his best. He apologizes to Liber for not being able to protect her, but at least the little girl managed to escape, and he hopes she gets away fast. Hio notes how irritating the situation is. He wanted to protect Liber just like she always does. Suddenly he spots a Makamo, and he smirks, thinking that he must have gone crazy to see this. Suddenly, Kina comes in front of him, saying that he must have given up if he's laughing in a situation like this. Hio recognizes her. The leader says that if she doesn't want to die, she better disappear from his face. Kina says that he better stop with the bluffs, as she has already seen what he's capable of, and it was pathetic, so it should be about time for him to quit stealing. She summons 2 gigantic arms and asks if he would like to try and steal her power. Seeing this, the leader pounds the ground and he disappears. Kina notes that he must have had an escape route before and tells Hio he can learn a thing or two about that. But nobody was listening, as he is knocked clean out. The leader falls into the sewer and screams at Hio. His name is Mescal, and one day he will kill him and take that power for himself. With that, he leaves, and a scout watches from a corner and pulls out what seems to be a phone. While Mescal runs away, he thinks of the past. He had nothing, not even the things others took for granted. So he took it away from them. Wanting to see the fish closer, he committed the sin of killing. At his age, this was detrimental for him, and that's how his unfortunate fate began. He started to steal to survive, promising himself every time that it's the last time he was doing it. But no matter what he was doing, he couldn't forget those eyes. The look the fish had seemed like a curse for him. It's as if God abandoned him. Until one day, a person came to him and promised him people and power, as long as he brought him that item. With the phone in hand, he smirks, saying that he can finally repay the favor to that person. Suddenly, he gets engulfed in flame, and he gets out of it swiftly. The scout notes that this place is fitting for him, seeing as he is a rat. Mescal desperately tries to protect the phone, and the scout notes that he managed to tank an attack from him, so credit is due. Instead of rat, a cockroach is a better way to describe him. Mescal sees that the scout is staring at him, and he demands he not look anymore. With that, the scout attacks him, presumably ending Mescal's sad fate. The scout sees that he was protecting a phone, and smirks, saying that things will turn out pretty fun. Outside, Kina protects Hio and Liber from the rest of the Avalon scouts. She says that she already rejected their guild invitation, so why are they here? One of the scouts curses at her. Some being that calls Kina his daughter warns her, saying that the female scout is exhibiting murderous intent, so they definitely must be planning something. The scouts say she should stand back, as their attacks are not aimed at her, and they are currently maintaining the security of this village. Ron, who is next to them, thinks that they are spouting excuses again. Kina notes that in order to maintain this security, they are attacking the people behind her, who are slipping between life and death as they speak. It's clear as day that this is an excuse. The other scout says that it is the truth. The people she is protecting are the main cause of the trouble that caused the village to be in such a sorry state. The woman says that if she wants to prove she's innocent, she better stand back. Now, Ran thinks, Why are they so adamant on attacking Hio? Have they perhaps learned that he has won Dean's favor? But regardless of that, he cannot help him at all. With Dean gone, he is now the representative of the village, so if he acts harshly and breaks the rules set out by the guild, they will surely break past the wall and invade them. Kina says that they are going too far with this clowning, and she asks for the scout's name, but she doesn't answer, instead demanding that she die. The scout prepares an attack, but the little girl demands she stop right this second. The scouts get distracted, and in that second, they get surrounded. They ask who these people are and who they are affiliated to. They say they don't have any, but if they had to name one, they would be player candidates. And Hio's friends. It seems that everyone from the test Hio passed has come to rescue him. Pastis says that they have received help from him in the past, so they can't ignore this situation. Kina thinks that the little girl managed to gather and bring some of the candidates from Section C. She did a good job. Suddenly, 2 large energy pillars surface from the ground, and the candidates all get ready to fight. But it was just a message. The scouts read it, and they note that it's a message from their leader. To temporarily suspend their plans, and not lay a hand on the individual who claims to hold a smartphone. The big scout, absent, tells the female one, Kalua, that they should retreat. She's hesitant at first, but he says that it's an order from the leader, so they can't ignore it. They leave, and the candidates mock them. Absent says that they should watch what they're saying, as they will surely meet again at the testing site for the player candidates. Ran looks down, and he clenches his fists, the only thing he can do now. After a week, Dean comes back, and is extremely furious at the sight of the damaged buildings. But since that eventful day, as if nothing has ever happened, the village is working hard to stabilize itself, and it does so at a fast pace. Hio and Liber have been recovering quickly. He notes that it's surprising that he healed so much in just 1 week. It must be Liber's influence, right? She scoffs and agrees, making Hio think that she isn't too happy after losing consciousness like that a week ago. But he can see why, as she was much more powerful when she was with Arthur. She says that he should stop talking to himself like that, and punches him. In that moment, Pastis comes inside, bringing fruit. He and Hio begin talking while Liber is angrily munching on some fruit. Hio thanks him for the rescue, but Pastis says that he helped everyone pass the exam, so it's all good. Hio thinks about Mescal, a fellow examinee who almost killed him. Hio asks who attacked the village, and Pastis doesn't know. He says that this whole situation is suspicious no matter what angle you come at it from, as after the incident, the captured criminals seemingly evaporated, leaving only their clothes behind. And other than the leader of the organization, they don't know the face of anyone else. Pastis grabs both of them by the neck and says that they should both take care and recover quickly. He also says that they must be the only ones who put their lives on the line and fought outside of the tower. This makes Hio think that he doesn't know anything about said tower, and he asks Pastis if fighting in the tower is commonplace. He notes that they really must not know anything, and Hio asks if he could tell them anything about it. But Pastis outright refuses, saying that they are examinees. But when anything related to players comes up, they are enemies. He goes to the door, saying that this is just how life is here. That's when the door bursts open, and a myriad of player candidates come in saying they are here to visit. Pastis just sits on the ground, trampled by the guests. He looks up and says that Hio has another visitor. Ran comes into the room, and Hio thinks that it's over for him. 3 hours ago, outside of the village, Ran was at a training ground. He thinks about all that happened, and his face sours. During the most dangerous time, he wasn't able to do anything, even after proudly declaring he was competent. He feels like the most pathetic thing in existence. Heavenly Tower, player. He hates those words. Just as bees are attracted to flowers, so do the promises of the tower attract many people. And those people, who claim to have come to the tower in pursuit of their dreams, are no different than criminal trash who constantly steal from others. No. They detest these kinds of people. It's the truth. But even with that, he was saved by the very people he despises. Ran bows down, saying that if it weren't for them, the village would have turned into rubble. He thanks all of them, both as defenders and as a player. Kina comes in saying that she's late as she couldn't find a flower shop nearby, but is surprised at the atmosphere inside. While walking away, he notes that he and Hio can't understand each other. If that is the case, he will try to accept them. This is the best possible way he can repay the debt. He goes to Dean and apologizes for being late. Dean says it's fine, saying that he was going to test his new arm with him, but ended up doing it without him. In the hospital, Kina gives him back his phone, saying that it was found in the sewers, but they couldn't identify the culprits. She leaves, saying that with this, the debt has been repaid. Libur is surprised. After everyone fought over this thing, it was just found lying in the sewers? Hio thinks that there must be other people from his reality. That's when a hidden number suddenly calls him. Hio is sweating profusely, and he answers the call. The caller notes that he's thankful the phone was delivered successfully. Libur asks who the caller is, and Hio's whole world is crashing down as he knows who the person behind the phone is. Kim Tae-won, his classmate. Hio thought that through the smartphone, the only thing that connects him to the world he's from, he could contact another person from his reality. But he never would have thought that the person would be Kim. They go meet in an undisclosed location. Hio asks why he is here, and Kim says that he isn't the only one who met God. This shocks him. Kim looks at him and starts making his way toward him. He says that they have another urgent matter to attend to. He puts his hand on Hio's shoulder and says that he heard that he was going around impersonating him with the smartphone. Just like that time, Hio tries to excuse himself, but Kim asks if he has to clean up his messes in this world too. Hio looks down and apologizes. Kim walks away and says that he is the same as always. A pathetic person. He says that he will let it slide. It's not like he tried to do something like this anyway. But in exchange, he demands that Hio doesn't come to the player exam. He says that he can't do that. He will climb the tower. He throws the phone in a river and exclaims that he never tried to impersonate him. Kim says that he should stop deluding himself. He's a nobody, not the main character. Hio notes that no matter what, he's going to climb the tower. That's his choice. Kim pulls his hood up, and red streams of light emanate from his phone. He notes that he changed, so he will personally make sure he won't be able to climb the tower. Hio thinks that he must also have gotten powers from God. Suddenly, Ron arrives and blocks Kim's hand, saying that he got here just in time. He urges Hio to return to the mansion, as Libur is worried about him. Kim notes that he always liked this character, and Ron says that using skills against civilians is against the rules, so he will have to enforce them now. Kim says that Ran has no chance of beating him, and he would be better off calling Dean if he wants to. Ran goes in for the attack, but Kim easily dodges. He asks what he's trying to pull, and Kim just stares. Ran continues his attack, but Kim dodges and says that he always wanted to see it in person. But unfortunately for him, this skill becomes useless if he fights at close quarters. Ran summons a spear and says that he shouldn't assume this. Kim grabs the cloth and scoffs, but his confidence is short-lived, as Ron swiftly goes behind him, and with not enough time to react, Kim gets hit twice. Heo asks Ran how he knew of coming here, but Ran urges him to stop speaking, as things aren't over yet. Kim gets up and notes Ran's skill, but suddenly, using his phone, he copies Ran's ability, much to their surprise. Kim, now full of confidence, asks how they would like to be beaten. But that's when Dean pops up next to him, asking if he's the rookie he's been hearing about. Kim smiles and says that he looks exactly like in the webtoon. It seems that this won't end smoothly. Kim tries to attack Dean, thinking that he didn't even notice his presence. He also notes that Dean is a mechanical swordsman, so he needs to be careful around his arm. He suddenly comes up behind him, causing Kim to panic and restrain his arm. Dean asks if he got permission from Rand before getting his skill. Kim says that he didn't, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Dean smiles and says that he lacks basic manners. Kim thinks that he is the closest being to Nagi, so if he can beat him, he will be one step closer. Dean breaks out of his restraints and closes the gap at light speed. He prepares a flick, saying that he needs to fix Kim's attitude with a beating first. He flicks his head, leaving him in a sorry state. Ran urges Dean not to go too far, but he assures him that he won't. He turns his attention to Kim, saying that they should continue his lesson. Kim notes how adamant Dean is on continuing with this. The village just might get demolished if this continues. He thinks that he had no reason to stop fighting, and now he will make sure that Dean is in his eyes at all times. Dean's murderous aura appears and says that he must be crazy. How dare he talk about the village in his presence? Kim can't move a single muscle now. The pressure is too much. Suddenly the other Avalon scouts appear, and Rand takes no time in aiming back. Dean adds that he's in a foul mood, so he won't play along as he usually does. Absent says that their team leader offended them and apologizes, also asking if he can allow them to leave in peace. Kim says that he doesn't plan on running away, but Absent says that the order came from the vice captain. He excuses Kim's behavior, saying that he is new and doesn't know about the non-aggression pact. Ran asks if they just expect to walk out of here without punishment, but Absent says that according to regulations, they will pay the price, whatever it may be. Dean looks at Kim and back at Hyo. He sighs and demands they leave. Kim says one final thing. He will regret the day he decided to help Hyo. Dean and Ran walk past Hyo, and he can't help but clench his fists. Deep in the night, he rises from his bed, and Lieber notices. Ran is preparing some of his cloth, and that's when he hears a knock on the door. It's Hyo. They go outside, where Ran notes that he is already strong and doesn't need to do this. Hyo says that Lieber is the strong one, not a weakling like him. Until he can hit Ran at least once, he won't stop. They continue to fight, but he holds no candle to Ran. Still, he steels himself, and until dawn, they continue fighting. The ground is littered with scars, and Ran says that they should probably stop now. He understands his rage, but destroying his body like this won't help anyone. Hyo says that he was right. He is extremely weak, a worthless fighter without Lieber. He should just give up on being a player, or on everything, right? Ran asks what he came here for, and Hyo cries out of frustration, saying that he wants to become stronger. Suddenly, Lieber screams at him to stop messing around. Hyo is surprised and gets up, but finds her tearing up. She says that she's the weakling. Hyo wonders what caused her to say this, but Lieber screams that she's right. If she wasn't, then why did he leave to fight without her? It's because she's weak and useless, right? Hyo comforts her, saying that he just didn't want to drag her into anything. She says that he lied, as they were supposed to climb the tower together. Ran looks at them, and Hyo urges her to stop crying, causing Lieber to hit him in the gut. Ran smiles, and says that he will work with them in order to make them stronger. Hyo is enthusiastic and thanks him profusely. At a restaurant, the other player candidates talk about the phone. They say that it's a really nice item, and that a guy from Avalon is using it. They also know that that person went to Hyo, who is apparently on the bad side of Avalon now. Kina makes eye contact with the person telling most of this, and he thinks that she is surely into him. He mocks Hyo, saying that he only relies on his items, but in reality, he's a weakling. Kina gets up, saying that she doesn't have time to sit around and chat. The guy's confidence gets crushed, and they all leave. While leaving, Pastis asks her if she likes Hyo. She gets mad, and he tries to defend himself by saying he's joking. Kina says that she left because she can't stand people talking trash when they don't know anything about the situation. But they also don't have the time to sit around, as there's less than 10 days left before the player pretest commences. Ran escorts Hyo and Lieber close to the tower. He says that now, the special training will begin. They both look at the tower, and note how big it is. Ran notes that this is the place where you can view the tower the closest. This makes Hyo asks what kind of training they are doing here, and Ran says that they will learn better with experience. He takes his cloth and slashes the ground at their feet. He tells them to cross that line. Lieber goes first, and the second she steps over, a spark happens, and she instantly falls down. Ran urges Hyo to do the same. He steels himself and runs through. He notes that the sensation he's feeling now is just like that time he died. He wakes up, and Ran says that when he crossed the line, he entered the domain of the Heavenly Tower. The domain is the area that is influenced by the tower, even though it's not inside of it. The reason Ran chose this place is because not only did he want Lieber and Hyo to get used to the pressure, but the main reason was the most important characteristic of the Heavenly Tower. He tells them that here, the concept of death does not exist. But in exchange, if you ever die, a price will be paid instead. The price is that you lose a small amount of your memories. They both note that it's quite a small price to pay, and Ran notes that most rookies are like this, thinking that losing memories is too small a price for salvation. He turns around, saying that in cases like this, it's better if they experience it firsthand. They look down with him, and spot dozens of sets of eyes looking at them. Ran says that this is called the Forest of the Defeated, a place for those who have ignored the consequences, and is also where they will fight for their training. He pushes them down, saying that within the forest, He left markings of his cloth. Their objective is to find them as fast as they can. Ron looks down at them, thinking that in these last 10 days, he will shape them up. If they can't deal with this, however, it's best they both give up, because those people are those who have failed to become players. The hordes of zombie-like people approach, and Heyo demands Lieber get up, but she says that she doesn't feel good after that fall. But Heyo insists, and when she transforms, they get the short end of the stick on her transformation. Ron looks from above, noting their failure. He says that if they had played it well, with a little luck, they might have managed to succeed. But this forest is a different breed. If they haven't released their full potential yet, they don't stand a chance. Heyo runs for his life, and it seems like Lieber is passed out yet again. She wakes up, ready to fight, but finds herself in God's vault of weapons. She notes that her only role is sitting here. She sits in silence and asks why he isn't listening to her. Has he perhaps forgotten about her? She looks down, but slaps herself, and with newfound confidence, she says that when she sees him again, she will be asking for that favor. She thinks that she will always wait for him, even if he is late. She's used to it by now. And the thing she wants to ask for is a name. Not the name of a weapon, but one that nobody can forget. She wakes up as Heyo is screaming for her too. He is ecstatic to find out that she did, and asks if she can transform once again into Excalibur, as he doesn't want to give up. They can surely make it, if they do it together. The sword suddenly transforms, and Lieber urges him to finish this. He strikes, and evaporates most of the ghouls. They get out of the smoke, with Lieber carrying Heyo, as he feels like fainting after using the ability. He looks at her, and notes that her hair grew a bit. Heyo thinks that it's probably because she's an ego weapon, and that means she grows with the master. Dean came to watch from above as well, saying that what they did was pretty cool. But he suddenly rises up and grabs him by his clothes. He asks one question. What's the reason he left those two to die in that forest? 50 hours have passed since they entered this forest, and Heyo notes that you don't need to eat at all. But instead you have to sleep lots, and it also heals your wounds to some degree when you sleep. He notes that it's probably the same for the defeated here, as they don't come out at night. Heyo thinks that it would be best to look for the cloth while the defeated are sleeping, but he can't just wake Lieber up when she's sleeping so happily. He goes to sleep as well, and that night, he has a special dream. The next day, he seems a little tired, and Lieber asks what that's about. Heyo wants to say that he saw her, but it would be embarrassing to tell that to a girl, so he stops. After some talking, he and Lieber decided what to do when the defeated appeared. It happens that their purposes is not aligned, so they made an agreement. When using a sword attack, only attack one target. With that, he is beginning to understand his abilities a little. After fighting again, he passes out and Lieber looks after him. He wakes up and Lieber notes that he faints for about 3 hours. Heyo is surprised that it's that much and asks how she knew. She says that it was just a hunch, as when she was in the divine world, the only thing she could do was keep track of time. Heyo is now sure that dream was about her. He gets up and says that it's good to know he can use the ability for. It will allow them to plan out more stuff in the future. He would also like to know how to adjust the power and such. When he came here, he came to the realization that he knew nothing about not only his own abilities, but also Lieber. She looks at him and notes that he seems pretty excited. She says that Ron probably sent them here in order for him to be who he is now. Heyo continues to lead the way and says that he climbed a tree and saw something in the middle of the forest. That's definitely where Ran hid the cloth. Lieber says that everything worked out in the end, but that's when a giant beast looms over her, and it wears Ran's cloth. Scared, he barely tells Lieber to watch out, but she gets crushed right in front of his very eyes. He just watches as the beast grabs his head and does the same to him. After reviving, he instantly goes to Ran and angrily grabs him by the clothes. He asks if this was his idea from the start, to tie the cloth up to that beast. Does he even know what happened with Lieber? Ran asks if they are going to give up, and Heyo clenches his teeth and walks away. Ran stops him, asking what he's going to do when he gets there. Is he going to run away again? Heyo asks. What is he supposed to do? It's fast and strong. There's not much that can be done. Ran asks if that's what he really thinks. Lieber says that they've been trying their utmost to learn their own abilities, especially Heyo. Ron asks if that's all they need to know, and Hio seems like he's finally got something. Hio says to Lieber that they should go, and he runs through the forest. He thinks about this. Did he become confused because his abilities were different? Even so, it would be extremely weird if what he's about to do works. But he needs to be confident, as the training that Ron put them through, hoping that they would become strong. He wouldn't just give them a task that's impossible, right? They arrive at the location of the beast, and Lieber asks what he's going to do. He approaches confidently, and just before the creature attacks, he bows down and introduces himself. The creature bursts out in laughter, saying that it never thought someone would even do this. It asks why Hio talked with it, and he says that it must have been able to talk. Otherwise, Ron's cloth wouldn't be tied so well on it. The creature deflates and turns into a woman. Hio is extremely surprised. What will happen next? The woman gives Hio the cloth, much to his surprise, and she says that she's just doing as she was told to just give it to him if he were to talk to her. Hio wonders if this is really Ron's special training, and Lieber comes from behind him, mad that he did what he did. The woman stretches and notes that, with her objective completed, it's time to end this. She suddenly pins Hio to the ground and asks how many of her precious children he killed before they came here. Ran looks from the distance and notices that it has started. In the past, when Dean interrogated Ran about why he sent them into that hellhole, he said that it was for training, as they wanted to become strong, so he simply wanted to grant that request. Dean notes that he should have at least told them what kind of place this was. Some may still find this forest sacred, but it has been tainted by the tower. Ron says that the idea of failure has never once occurred to him. He fully believes in it, and if they do fail, he will fall down with them. Hio tries to explain to the woman that they attacked first, and it was only self-defense, but she doesn't believe a word. Lieber tries to approach, but she warns her that if she were to do so, this guy would be crushed. She notes that it's obvious they want to go up the tower, as she has seen many people like them. But in the end, most became one with this forest. They should just give up, as she has them caught already. He reaches out for Lieber to transform, but the woman notices and cuts a finger off. The pain is too much for Hio, but even in this state, he has noticed that all of this was a trap. Previously, she had killed them painlessly, so they wouldn't be afraid to come back. He fell into the web, at the Avalon Guild on the top floor. Absinthe greets the vice captain, Van Zickmund. He notes that he must be in charge of the newbie, and he must have been through a lot. Absinthe is honored to be remembered, and says that they will do their utmost to ensure his presence at the entrance. Vaughn asks him to take care of the player test, which will take place in a few days, and Absinthe presents Hio's phone to him. He notes that it was recovered at the battle site, but it seems to have no power within. Kim suddenly comes in and notes that the thing is just a smartphone. It has no power if it's not him using it. Absinthe notes that he can't enter or leave without permission. Kim ignores him and explains that his ability is copy, and the condition to use it will be kept a mystery, for now at least. Absinthe urges him to back off, as he won't tolerate this disrespect anymore. Van turns to him and says that he's looking forward to his performance. Kim agrees and thinks that even after approaching him so much, he can't see his face. He must have an ability that hides his identity. He is quite the cautious character, but it's fine, as he wasn't rushing to find out. Instead, he wants to find out where Dean is. He will definitely pay him back for the amount of disrespect he has shown. In 5 days on the player test, he will crush Hio. His God-given power be damned. Suddenly, a flash of blue comes from Hio, and the woman urges him to stop resisting, as he has no power here. Hio notes that he heard those words countless times because people hated him. Loser, pathetic, useless, and everything in between. She tries to hit him, but he moves swiftly and grabs her shirt. Did she think he was just going to give up? Even if it's hard, he will show that people like him can do it too. The woman notices that he must have had a super recovery and backs away. Lieber is surprised that the woman backed off. But something is strange with Hio. He has never been like this before. Does he have his own unique abilities? He beckons her to transform, and she does so. The woman transforms into her monstrous form, but Hio and Lieber aim at the monsters, and with no choice, the woman is forced to defend. The slash creates a huge wave, and Lieber says that he can let go as she will support him in her original form. But it's not over yet, as the woman has resisted the attack. He thinks that even with this much determination, he still lacks something: resolve. He can't bring himself to kill those things, as he thought that their lives weren't different from his. The woman comes up to him and pins him to the ground. He thinks that this is the end, but he suddenly feels something drop down his cheek. With the last of his strength, he looked up at the woman, and he could see that she had a sad look on her face. The woman thinks that all her life, her only joy was watching the moonlight until she met that person. The guy also beckoned his friends to come with him, as she would surely train them. They arrived, and multiple people were already training. The guy also introduced his friends and asked to be trained. At first, she had no intention of training them since her ability was something she had from birth, but it was fine as she missed interacting with people. The moments of cheerful conversation could be heard throughout the forest, and in those moments, she felt happiness. But one day, they said their goodbyes, as they had to go to the player test. The muscle brain of the group says that she could also come, but the others bash him for inviting her, as he knows she can't leave this forest. The leader of the group hugs her tightly and says that they will surely come back safely, so he asks her to wait patiently. She kisses him on the forehead and notes that she will wait for her precious children to fulfill their dreams and come back safe. And so, her first wait had started, and instead of the moonlight, she always looked at the tower, hoping that the people she grew to love had climbed high. But one night, the Avalon Guild threw a couple of undead into the forest, and sadly the group was among them. The woman could only hug and cry out in pain. If only she had stopped them then. She speaks to Hyo and says that this is what she was hoping they would do: give up. Hyo touches her cheek and apologizes for calling those people monsters, so she shouldn't cry. Suddenly, Liber punches the woman off of him and protects him. She wonders why Ran sent them here, as it's going to be the same, and they will be back here as the Walking Dead. Liber asks how she's so sure, and at least they are better than her, who is not trying at all. If she is that worried, why doesn't she just help them so they can be as strong as her? The woman tells her to shut up again and rushes to attack them, as she doesn't want to get her hopes up again. But she stops at the last second, as a myriad of Walking Dead come and stop her. In the end, even in their undead forms, they still want to give her hope. She detransforms and asks them for their names. Liber tells her, and the woman asks that, no matter how long it takes, can they promise to come back safely after their dreams are achieved? With those words, her new wait has begun. 3 days had passed since that day, and as soon as Hyo woke up, their new teacher began teaching them. The first test was simple, a game of tag, but if they get caught, they die. They did so for 3 days, and Hyo notes that those were the most difficult moments of their lives. After that, the teacher congratulated them on a job well done, as they were the first people who hadn't been caught by her in 3 days, and they are most definitely proficient at running. This is all she could teach them, so her training is over. Hyo and Liber look at each other and immediately high-five and embrace each other. They cry out in joy and note that not even Ran had put them through such hellish training. The teacher says that they should let her finish, as this lesson was about how to survive an enemy that is much stronger than them. This is important wisdom in the tower, as the tower is full of strong individuals, so they need to be able to retreat in a dire situation. They both are horrified by what's to come, and Hyo asks if she's going to make them do that whole thing again. She notes that they will have to ask their next teacher, and she breaks one of Ran's clothes. He descends to the ground like a hawk, and he says that he heard what they were saying about him, and they also mentioned hell. Well, for the 4 remaining days, he will show them what true hell is like. Days pass, and Dean looks out of his window, noting that today is the day of the player test. It seems that the group that rescued Hyo previously is in a bit of a pickle, as a madman is attacking them to reduce the number of people he has to compete with. Kina stands in front of him, and he prepares an attack, but another guy defends her, the guy who tried to hit on her previously. She notes that all of this was a trap, a lure to make this a fair fight. The madman grabs his leg and notes that since he attacked first, all of this is self-defense now, right? He punts him to the ground and asks Kina what she's going to do now. She summons her power and notes that she will play along for now. The guy, nicknamed Bloody Mary, a class vampire, charges in. The others prepare to defend themselves, but that's when lightning strikes Bloody Mary, and he falls in one hit. The man who shot that monster was none other than Hio. Before leaving, the teacher gave Hio a cloak as a graduation present, and he will notice the effects when he uses it. Lieber is a little upset that she didn't get a present, and the teacher hugs her, apologizing for not getting a gift for her. She notes that in the past few days, Hio has become so strong that she feels it when she's around him. She urges him to come here, as she has one more present for him. She hugs him close and kisses his head, and with that, she throws him straight to the testing site, so that's how they got there in such a short amount of time. Momo watches from a distance, noting that this was just a practice match before the real thing. But the participants seem to be having a field day there. The other judges sit next to her and watch. Heo thinks that he was thrown so far away, but he suffered no damage. Is it perhaps because of this cloak? He also notes that the floor feels a bit squishy, and that's when he spots that he was sitting on someone, so he rushes to get down and apologizes profusely. Kina urges him to move away, as that monster is still alive. Hio looks behind him, but it is too late, as the big guy hits him with an attack that sends shockwaves throughout the ground. But he seems to have missed, as Hio grabbed Bloody Mary's sword, making him unable to move. He looks at the people who saved him, and spots that one is gravely injured. Hio breaks Bloody Mary's sword and asks what he's doing. He has had enough of this disrespect and pulls out another blade, ready to strike Hio. That's when he summons Liber, and together, they take that guy down in mere seconds. Kina looks at him and wonders if this is really the Hio they knew in the past. He turns dramatically, but that's when he trips on his own cloak and falls on his face. He embarrassingly gets up and excuses his behavior, but that's when Liber smacks him around and bashes him for scaring her like that, as she wasn't prepared to be summoned out of nowhere. Kina looks at this and can't help but laugh, noting that he hasn't changed a bit. Pastis is extremely surprised at her reaction, and notes that this is the first time he has seen Kina laugh. She walks up to them and says that they should get a move on, as the exam is going to start soon. With that, they all enter, and the player exam starts. Van looks from his tower at the commotion going on at the testing site and is surprised when he sees that amount of lighting. A subordinate offers an investigation, but he denies it, saying that he can't miss this, so he will be going there himself. It has also been a while since he last saw Dean. The group enters the arena, and Heo notices how everyone is staring at him, especially Kim. Momo and the other judges come and begin to explain the rules. Kim is a rookie, and Avalon is supporting her with all its resources. The first time they scouted him, he single-handedly eliminated an entire Avalon attack unit. It is now their job to determine if he's a valuable tool Avalon can use. But one thing is certain. Heo is the only one who can sway him. Absinthe sees him make his way to him and notes that violence had been prohibited the other day. Kim says that he's just going to say hello, and he demands everyone step aside, and he's not going to say it twice. Everyone makes way, and Lieber notes that this is the guy from his past, right? Heo confirms this and notes that he's just going to talk with him for a bit. Kim says that he changed quite a lot, as he can now look him in the eye. Heo notes that he's still the same. How long is he going to act like a child for? This enrages Kim, and he gets ready to attack, but one of the judges stops them, and Momo says that personally, she doesn't care if they rip each other apart, but there will be no fooling around under her supervision. With that, they stop, and Kim spots Van looking at him from above. Another judge approaches Heo and notes that he's quite cute up close, but sadly not her type. She also notices that his muscles are quite tough, but not enough to make everyone in Group C pass. Momo tells her to back off, but the other judge, Lulu, says that she's quite generous if she lets everyone pass due to him, and under her watchful eye, nobody will pass that easily. The other judge, Bibi, agrees with her, and notes that Group C has the most people, which might seem unfair to the other groups. Momo sighs and gives up, noting that they will do as they please. Lulu looks behind Heo and says that the number needs to be cut by half, so from now on, under her guidance, the test for Group B will proceed with a 1v1 tournament. Van watches from above when another guildmaster, Sirius, greets him, noting that he didn't think that the Avalon Guild representative would be in place like this. They continue to talk, and Sirius talks about Dean and Nagi's fight, noting how weak Dean truly was. That's when someone else comes up to them, Dean himself. Sirius asks what he's doing here, as this is a place where only big guild executives can enter. So it's not a place for a bastard like him with no guild. Dean says that he's in the right place, as he now has a guild. The Red Wing Guild. Sirius is surprised his guild got approved, and Van says that he approved it. Dean notices him, and is surprised to see him out of the castle, and that he is having a hard time with their new product. Van says that they should stop talking about that, as he even accepted his guild as an apology. But he also didn't expect that he, who always played solo, would form a guild. It is smart, however, to try with new colleagues if he can't do it alone, so he looks forward to the day when he will challenge him again. The judges get ready for the competition, and Lulu explains the rules. The time limit is 24 hours, and they have permission to use their full power, so whoever survives wins. However, if the winner is not decided in time, they will both be disqualified. Pretty simple, right? Momo says that this is really simple, but Bibi likes it. Lieber wonders if they will have to fight separately and wants to ask, but Momo says that even a monkey could understand these basic rules, so she starts the competition with the floor crumbling under the contestants' feet. When they open their eyes, they are sent somewhere else, and a talking robot Mochi explains that they were sent in a virtual zone based on the hierarchy of the terrarium. They need to adapt, survive, and show their skills with all their might, as guild leaders are watching closely. Momo wishes them good luck, and with that, the one-on-one tournament begins. Somewhere else, Nagi watches on a screen and recognizes Heyo. He looks around to see if he can't find anything that stands out, and Lieber does the same. Suddenly, she spots something, and Heyo is very surprised, noting that her eyes are very good. In the distance, there is a place that has a different color, and Heyo says that it almost looks like a desert, but this place's topography is very strange. Lieber notes that there's probably another candidate there. So is there perhaps something else there? Heyo says that they will move towards that place once they are finished here, as they might get the opportunity to find out more about Kim's abilities. His opponent comes next to them and asks if this wasn't supposed to be a one-on-one fight. This opponent is none other than the guy who dissed him at the bar earlier and the guy who hit on Kina. Lieber notices that Heyo's not in his usual mood and asks what's wrong. He says that if his gut feeling is right, this guy is the kind he's most uncomfortable with. The opponent immediately begins bashing him, noting that everyone is risking their lives to become players. Yet he tried to scam everyone with his phone, a mere dirty trick, and now he even has a girl with him. This test is not for a bastard like him, a lowly con artist. Lieber has had enough and charges in, but Heyo stops her, noting that he doesn't care what this guy says. The opponent begins walking to him, saying that he shouldn't touch Kina, as she's already his. Heyo thanks God, and in that very second, one shot him. He notes that if his opponent is a jerk like him, he will not mind killing him at all. He looks at Lieber and says that they should go. She pats him on the back, saying that he's grown quite a lot. Group D is the one from the latest test, but the reason for most of their eliminations was not because they lacked skills. Most were eliminated because they violated the rules. One of them butchered most of the audience because they were being noisy, and another killed the examiner even though he passed the test. Thus, they have gathered quite a stigma for being troublemakers. That is Group D, and he is also a part of it. Gyumhyuk, a martial artist. He asks Pastis to give up, as he looks too pathetic to be beaten up. Pastis throws a rock at his face, and notes that he talks quite a lot of nonsense. Hyuk catches the rock, and notes that he was just trying to scare him because he thought it would work. But still, they are just wasting energy here, so it's very annoying. He jumps down from where he was staying, and Pastis throws multiple rocks at him, but they do no damage. Pastis creates a sand wall, blocking Hyuk's vision. Pastis attacks from behind it, but Hyuk is vigilant and says that things like this won't work. But it seems that Pastis prepared a surprise attack. This too is not enough, however, and Hyuk asks if he's just going to keep throwing pebbles at him. It seems that Pastis was just assessing his abilities and came to the conclusion that this guy's reach is about 1 meter. So he won't lose if he keeps his distance, but how does he win? He has no choice but to use his abilities. He didn't want to do this at first, as too many eyes were watching, and the less they knew, the better. Hyuk says that he should look at his opponent in a fight, and he immediately closes the gap. Pastis is surprised but notices that he's still out of his attack range, so it should be fine. But Hyuk attacks in a half second and throws him into a nearby wall with his attack. Hyuk mocks him and says that he was probably thinking that he got assessed perfectly, but he shouldn't judge people so easily. The most important factor in a PvP match is being able to determine the abilities of an opponent and understanding your opponent's abilities. This is what determines who wins or loses. A conditional ability is activated when the conditions are met, and Hyuk's ability activates when he drinks alcohol, slowing down everything around it. Pastis gets caught in this, and Hyuk uses the Druken Fist martial art, knocking him again into the wall. Hyuk notes that it will be dangerous if he drinks anymore, as the intensity and range of the slow are based on how much he drinks, so there are naturally pros and cons to this. In this fight, however, it was an advantage, as it made Pastis misjudge his ability. Hyuk sees the poor state he is in, and rushes to finish this fight, which is when a ball wearing glasses points at him and screams, "Invalid." This confused him. Is this some kind of ability? And what does it mean by invalid? This gives Pastis the opportunity to grab Hyuk's booze, and he drinks all of it, saying that with this, the conditions are set. Hyuk thinks that all of this time he was overestimating his opponent, as this guy was just a candidate from Group C. He calls him dumb, as the booze is only half of his ability. Hyuk prepares a palm attack, which Pastis counters with scissors. The ball screams valid, and we see that the ability Pastis possesses is a conditional ability, similar to rock, paper, scissors. It's like he's playing that with his opponent, and it sets the conditions for the outcome to be chosen. Pastis, however, isn't the one who decides the outcome. It's the referee. So, what was the reason for the previous outcome to be valid? To make this conditional ability work, Pastis must first undertake and fulfill the other player's conditions, which was achieved by drinking alcohol. Hyuk cannot move, and Pastis now has the advantage. He hits Hyuk constantly, and when the ability is finished, all of that pain is felt in seconds. The first winner of the tournament is Pastis. In a snowy plain where only snow falls, Kina searches for his opponent while thinking that as soon as the match started, the sun disappeared. And this blizzard is most likely happening because of the perforated terrarium. She should stop exploring soon and find shelter, as there is only so much warmth her father can give her. However, 24 hours just isn't enough, so they need to hurry. But how? In her mind, half of her wants to quit, but the other, more powerful half wants to go further and not stop no matter what happens. That's when she finds a few footprints and notices that they are quite fresh and scattered everywhere. She asks her father what he thinks, and he notes that, all in all, he's quite clumsy but also a good man. Kina is wondering what he's talking about, and he continues his rant by saying that Hyo is a little frustrating in places but not evil in the slightest, and her features are quite nice, so he's lucky to have her. He was actually wondering what she was thinking about all this time. However, it just seems she was thinking about a certain someone. It's the first time she's actually shown interest in someone, so as her father, he's quite proud. Kina tries to drown him with snow and notes that she told him more than once that she despises these types of jokes. But getting back on topic, what does he think of these footprints? The father says that it's most likely a trap, as it's trying too hard to be complicated and some things are just awkward. He doesn't think she's the only one to see an enemy as prey. She agrees, and what she's thinking of right now is a declaration of war. That's when countless arrows surround her and create a large explosion on impact. The girl who shot the arrows hides herself among the trees, ready to bring out more pain at a moment's notice. On their side of the arena, Lieber takes a nap while Hyo trains by doing one-armed push-ups. He finishes and rubs the sweat off with a cloth, thinking that this should be enough, for now at least. But all of this feels awkward, as it's like she's watching his every move, almost as if she were here. Lieber wakes up and notes that he took much longer than she thought he would. Hyo asks if she slept well, and while stretching, she says that she slept really well. Hyo asks why she did that, and she notes that it was simple stretching and some simple fan service. That's when their opponent finds them, and Hyo instantly feels a deadly glare. He urges Lieber to get ready, and their opponent summons a gigantic staff to crash on them, which simply deletes half of the island they were on. It was the guy they defeated before, Shonan, who holds the title of Monkey King. Momo and the other judges notice that the first match has concluded, and so Momo picks up something and tells the others she will go announce the results. While walking, she thinks that an hour from the start, the first match ended, and what she's holding are the results. This just proves that her test wasn't as bad as the others thought. but now she's excited to announce the results, as she can't wait to see the guild leaders' distress that will be visible on their faces. All of the guild masters can officially scout only 3 people. One more person means more choices, so guilds have to be careful when choosing talented people. In this game, the natural first step would be to get information on the characters first, then observe when they are fighting. But this will be a war of wits between the other guildmasters, as whoever has the better eye for things wins the most. Momo gets to where the guildmasters are watching the fights and says that she will now announce the first winner. They all seem to be distracted by something, and she notices how strange the atmosphere is. It's the first